Hey Wade, so I'm going to give you some feedback on your project 3. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think from the very beginning I wasn't very big on your concept because it wasn't very original. I think that you needed to push it a little bit further and find imagery that pertained to your client and to the demographic, but something that was a little bit more unique and distinct to them, as opposed to just like imagery like the star that you picked that is a little bit generic, and I think that it would have issues standing on its own and being recognizable as a symbol for your company. So that's one of the major issues. Is if you were to work on this logo more, I would honestly say to go back and come up with a better concept. But putting that aside, because I know that, since this class is only a month long, that it's hard to completely go back and redo the logo because, we just don't have that time. So I'm going to be grading you and critiquing you on the logo that you did choose to go with, starting with your style guide. I'm glad that you laid it out and catered it to the client itself. Like, I can see the personality of the client in the layout of the style guide, which is good. I'm honestly not big on this font here. I think that your font selection, because for your client you said it was kind of more classy, upscale a little bit, or at least, a little bit more stylish. This font here, I'm not really feeling your adjectives that you described. It seems like a little bit more amateur and unprofessional. So I would go with something more classy for your font here. I don't mind this here because even though it does seem a little bit stereotypical, I think that it at least works with your client and it's a little bit more stylish and functional as far as the typography goes. For the logo itself, or actually I guess we'll just go in order. The idea of a style guide is you want it to be easy for your client to understand, and they can just open the style guide and go through and figure out how to use their color palette, what colors go with what part of the logo and stuff like that. So I see that you had laid out, this color is the front of the star, this is the shadow of the star and stuff like that. I think a better way to lay this out would have been to have the star itself and actually, show directly where it is instead of just like other color and logo type. They're not necessarily going to know what those are, especially, if the client doesn't know anything about design. If you just have logo type, they might not necessarily know that that means that it's the text. They might get really confused and think that that means the symbol itself. So you really want to think about functionality with the style guide and how to lay it out so that it's easy for them to understand. Go down here. Again, with the typeface, I don't mind this one. Really not big on this one. And for the body copy, what that is that's a font that you can write large amounts of text in, like paragraphs, like if they had a informational write-up about the company or whatever it happens to be, or like an ad or something. So you want that to be something that is not overly unique, so that when you have a large body of text, it doesn't get annoying trying to read this whole paragraph of like very stylized type. So I think for your body copy, this is a little bit too unique and a little bit too like there's too much going on with it. You'd want to, not like Times New Roman, but something simple like that so that's a lot easier to read. And again, like I said, I think that this font doesn't really fit the adjectives that you had described earlier. As far as the logos themselves, with the black one, you can see obviously that on a black background, you're going to have some issues with it standing out. So the only thing that you're seeing right here is the white on the star, and while it does happen to kind of lend your eyes to make out the shape of it the way that you drew it, I don't think that there's enough information to figure out exactly what it is, or more that the symbol that you've chosen doesn't have too much going on with the shape, that even though they can make it out, it's kind of hard to, there's not much going on with it, basically. So like if you had gone with this style and there was a little bit more variation in the shape itself, then it might be an interesting look. But I think just having the shadow and just making up the 4 points, it's not very interesting. So I think that you need to add more detail to this so that you can make it out a little bit more, like on the side and everything. Same with the white. If somebody didn't know the logo, they would have no idea what that is. And it works a little bit better with showing the highlight, but with showing the shadow, I think that you lose a lot of that. So I would rework that a little bit. The purple choice is interesting. I think that the purple goes with the theme that you're going for, but I think like this gray in the middle, let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. The gray in the middle of the star I don't think really works because it doesn't really make sense. It just looks like a hole in the center of it. So I don't know if that's supposed to be, you know, like I don't know. The perspective of it is a little bit off. So I would not just have this random circle on top of it. If you have these highlights over here, make sure that you're consistent with it and have the highlights over there, because it looks like it's literally like a gray circle painted on top of the star as opposed to being part of the cutout itself, since the highlights aren't there. I was looking at this one here. So with this cutout, it's a little bit inconsistent because if you have the cutout in the middle of it, it wouldn't be a solid black square. So you need to think about things like that. Like if you have the hole in the middle of it, then it wouldn't really be this solid color. So you need to be a little bit more consistent. Yeah, those are the main things. So like I like this one. This one I think is the best of all of them because on the black background with the gray and the black, then you can make out the shape a little bit better. So of your variations, I think this one's the best, and second being on the white version. But I think that these ones here lose a lot of the detail that you add to it. So those would be my main comments is, you know, I would fix those things if you were to go forward with this one. But in the real world, I would say that the concept itself is what had the most issues. So you'd want to go back and come up with a more creative shape and something that applies more to the client. So I think that that was your biggest downfall with this overall. Okay.